In the timeline of man, he has, in recent centuries, developed a method of dark matter travel which has enabled us to freely explore the galaxy. It is still a dangerous, expensive journey. Many expeditions have departed and never returned, and in our exploration, man has yet to encounter life beyond the cellular. Until now. On an expedition by the Prince of Mars to investigate radio signals from an unexplored arm of the Milky Way, they are on direct course heading for the source of the signals, when suddenly the broadcast goes dark. This is not uncommon. Other ships have tracked signals which also vanished, ended abruptly. It is theorized that some passing cosmic phenomena or release of energy could possibly redirect or obscure such signals. Perhaps a nomadic spacefaring race once resided in said location, then moved on. Or maybe a civilization simply stopped producing that specific type of signal, either from advances in technology or disaster. The expedition crew make an attempt to re-establish connection, but without success. They continue on course to the star system originally predicted to be the source of the broadcast, and after another 50 million light-years, the signal picks up again. Once within range to distinguish vocal enunciation, scientists work quickly to decipher the alien language. The Prince of Mars begins a set of reciprocal messages with the aliens, telling them of peace and friendship, mutual benefit through cooperation. The aliens welcome them with feverish excitement. The Prince of Mars sets his ship in orbit around the planet, asking that they meet on neutral ground. This race of aliens cannot explore the galaxy, but they can send a shuttle into orbit. In preparations, a test rocket explodes on the launch pad. No one is injured, but it's quite the embarrassment. Their passenger shuttle launch, however, is a successful one. The two species meet upon the spaceship Scarlet Mars. A great celebration is held. A fight breaks out. The aliens are a rowdy, physical bunch, but they are outnumbered and outgunned. Two aliens are swiftly neutralized, injured but not killed. The pride of the aliens, however, is injured more severely. Relations simmer. The alien king and three of his most astute and trusted wives are the only ones to board the ship and negotiate. Meanwhile, human scientists work analyzing the alien species, their culture, and their planet. It is soon discovered that one of their oceans is a massive crater, caused by catastrophic impact from a cosmic body. This impact seems to have occurred some 50 to 60 million years ago, coinciding with the initial signal cutoff. Further investigation of the planet reveals structures from a 50-million-year-old civilization buried beneath the surface, and fossilized remains which would indicate the massive extinction of its inhabitants, a different species of alien that does not genetically or physically resemble the current dominant species. Investigation into the current alien culture reveals exactly what the geological data would suggest. A different species of intelligent beings rose to prominence on this planet, achieved a certain modest technological level, which was not sufficient to divert extinction in the face of catastrophic natural disaster, and the current species has only uncovered and reproduced the technology of the past. These aliens stubbornly believe themselves to be the survivors and descendants of that race, but the data proves otherwise. These creatures are primitive and dangerous. Of their vast numbers, many live uncivilized and pack-like, hunting on the edge of cities. Beastly, animalistic creatures, who on an evolutionary scale are capable of hunting tooth and claw, don't even need weapons to hunt for food, yet they already possess weapons to fight wars. We predict they'll learn to organize for large-scale conflict within the next 2 to 3 centuries and completely wipe themselves out. The Prince of Mars, a devilishly handsome, chiseled man, forged to perfection by genetic modification and muscular bionics. He sits upon his captain's chair looking out the front viewport of the ship at the planet below, arms posed pondering, magnificent cape thrown over the back of his chair. In his eyes reflects the memory of that exploding little rocket. The prince begins to pity the little monsters, then to despise them, because they have nothing to offer. They're nothing but ignorant little chimps playing with their toys. He decides after a night of heavy intoxication while at dinner with the aliens, watching them gorge, watching their pathetic, drunken, sloshing joy, their juvenile little squabbles and outbursts. Their only path to salvation is through him. They must fear his might and the wrath of his punishment like that of a god. The creatures are too primitive to truly respect anything other than divine power and eternal judgment. He will civilize them through their own religion. And their religion says that a member of the old race will one day return and conceive a miracle child with one of theirs, ushering in a new era of enlightenment, as the knowledge of the old race and the strength of the new culminates in the birth of the miracle child and the reactivation of the dormant planet, since they think the entire planet is a machine, like all the machines they've dug up from it. So the alien king brings his most beautiful and willing females, and the prince and his men feast upon them. The prince keeps his secrets well, and there isn't time for dissent. Most are none the wiser to anything but orgiastic celebration. But even those aware and opposed are silenced by the momentum of the incident. The aliens are absorbed in emotional rapture by the imminent fulfillment of a religious prophecy. If a dissenter were to raise his voice, it could only be with a very careful confession. Because of the volatile nature of the aliens, to confess a lie like this now would inevitably lead to an outburst of violent rage. Well, no matter, because the alien king gets it into his head anyways, and he bursts into the Prince of Mars's chamber to find him thrusting into one of his most astute and trusted wives. The alien king eviscerates him, bites his still engorged cock off like a dog, tearing and snapping and shaking him by his base, spreads his entrails around the cabin and sounds for his bodyguards. The human men are caught naked with females. They are like helpless, hairless infants when the aliens come prowling in their four-legged battle stance, fueled by their previous humiliations, fueled by betrayal and deceit. The aliens show no mercy. They kill all the men, rape all the women. They're tearing the ship apart. The ballroom is a horrific dance of blood. 2 women run screaming out of the hall into the kitchen. A man from the kitchen walks one way as the 2 screaming women run the other. A beast pounces on him. The man catches the beast in the chest with a long, sharp ice pick. It falls. He pins it with his knee and goes to hacking with a butcher knife until its head is off. From a far, wide angle, we see the ship, sitting on the edge of black space and the glow of the planet's atmosphere, hazy fingers of the Milky Way reaching into the edge of the frame. A swelling slowly builds at the center of the ship. The image seems unreal, warped. A blow-up toy expanding beyond its limits, then the explosion, massive, pluming, raining, like a sky full of slow, burning, sinking zeppelins. Falling from the sky amidst the flaming debris is our same kitchen worker, in an entry-proof suit with an oxygen mask. This is no mistake. The butcher, an ex-warrior and pilot of the Mars Space Force. He was forced to retire from military flight duty after losing an eye. An expert in knives and spices, he was recruited as head chef and secret bodyguard of the prince. The butcher freefalls, releases his parachute, floats down to the pinkish-orange sand. He lands and comes to a knee. A demonish insect in the foreground scurries into a hole. The man wanders the desert, spacesuit shredded, oxygen tank over his shoulder. The sand is fine and light, and when wind or feet kick it up, it hangs and floats like a mist. The wind picks up now. The man covers his mouth with the oxygen mask and closes his biological eye, continues to see through the sand with his bionic eye. A period of wind, then calm, and through the mist the man makes out an ethereal, ghostly voice, echoing, weeping, soft, excruciating sobs. A woman. What foul demon may spring from the sound of a woman's tears? The butcher readies his knives, watches his step for traps. A gust blows up from his feet and parts the sandy air, forms a path to a formation of smooth, sand-blasted rocks. Bitter, tangy sobs like a broken harp reach his ears, and there lies the crying woman, hair across her face, falling out of her tattered dress, cold and pale, trembling like an image in rippling water, a specter passing along the edge of spirit and consciousness. "Who's there? Who treads forth?" The woman shields her face and lowers her eyes from some piercingly bright and miserable shame. Avert your eyes. I am not your princess anymore. Princess! The butcher rushes to her, tries to give her the oxygen. No, remove this. I'll not waste a whisper. I shall suffocate in my own sour stench if I am to breathe another breath. She collapses face first across the rock. The man puts away his oxygen, removes the jacket of his suit, and drapes it across her body. He then kneels and faces the other way, because even still she isn't fully decent. We see facing the man, over his shoulder, with just the lady's feet in frame so that she may remain exposed only outside of our vision. Can you walk, my lady? Now that the sands have died down, we can't stay here in the open. The jacket comes flying back at him, slaps him across the shoulders, and falls to the ground. The butcher is receiving a signal. He checks his bionic eye, opens a connection. You! Who the hell are you? The butcher, is it? The hologram shouts. Yes, High Wizard. The butcher, already on his knee, dips his head further to the High Wizard, counsel to kings and senior captain of the expedition. And who is that back there? Is that the princess? Yes. Is she injured? She is in a despair. Well, there's no time for that. You need to find shelter. We've sent message back to Mars. They're sending a fleet. Now, 3 months is not a trivial amount of time to wait, but it doesn't seem like trying to negotiate with the aliens is an option right now. So finding shelter and food are your immediate priorities. Where are you, High Wizard? I'm safe for now. You worry about yourself. As for the princess, he cocks his head and studies her. Your probability of survival is exponentially better on your own, so don't waste your time trying to get her motivated and on her feet, and do not waste your energy carrying her. Are those your orders, High Wizard? If you need to moralize your actions as orders, then yes. Now get moving. They're sending a search party. Among other things, they're blaming any human survivors for the death of their king. And then the hologram cuts connection and the wizard disappears. The man waits a beat before getting up and standing over the princess. Her breath quickens and pants and cracks. You are the butcher then, she asks, edging and dragging and crawling her way beneath his direct downward gaze. So you know what it is to see a creature broken, drained of hope and without future, without the sturdiness of soul to carry on through the exhausting, agonizing weight, grasping at him, using all her strength to hang pathetically from his arms. She collapses and spins to her back, exposing her pale breasts and delicate neck. She averts her eyes and throws her hair aside, accentuating the frailty of her neck. Quick, take up your blade. I shall lay my neck as a cut of lamb across your chopping block, and you will spare me my misery. Make meat from my flesh. Have your final thrill if you can stand the degradation. The butcher draws his blade. The princess trembles, pinches her eyes shut, bracing, sweat dripping down her face, and from a low angle looking up, we see the sharpened steel raise against the sky, then drop in a swift, decisive stroke, stabbing into the decaying, sun-beaten block of wood by her throat. She gasps and convulses in expectation of death's dramatic euphoria. Protect yourself or see off, milady. But I no longer serve you or your prince. The butcher, wandering. He comes to a rocky little cove and pool of water. He kneels and drinks out of one cupped hand, the other on the butt of his knife. We look down at him from the trees in the shade of the canopy, shadows and branches and leaves whispering slightly in the breeze. Continue drinking, human. The butcher freezes with his cup of water to his mouth. His eyes move to the voice. He finishes drinking loud and freely, as from out of the shadows stalks a female alien on all fours. The butcher stands and begins to circle away from a disadvantageous position. I am not interested in a fight. The female lies down on a rock above him. The man moves to put the watering hole between them. She leans and sniffs inquisitively. Who are you? What is your rank? Or does it matter? You seem so small without your technology surrounding you. I'm just a man. I had nothing to do with the prince's deception. I wish only to survive until another ship comes to retrieve me. The female keeps her eyes locked on him, inches closer. The butcher stands his ground and draws his blades along with her advance. He feels the claws and the teeth closing into deadly range and readies his blades in equal measure. He makes a move in preparation to strike when she's come close enough. The alien stops. They both hesitate. The female carefully, eyes wide and watchful, leans just a bit closer to sniff him, then not quite satisfied paces away. You have already sent a message to your home planet. What did you say? I wasn't the messenger, so I don't know. But if they get here and there's no humans left, you can bet they're going to assume the worst. The female continues to pace, nonchalant and unaffected. And if we assume the worst, what is your worst? Complete annihilation of all planet-wide structures and life forms above ground within 2 to 3 strikes, under 10 minutes. The female has to pause in her pacing to weigh this. That is an exaggeration. We came halfway across the galaxy. Multiply your most powerful weapon by that. She remains prideful and unwilling to admit defeat. Now you threaten annihilation to cover up your crimes? There are those who will have you answer, and I don't think your ship is coming quickly enough. The criminals were those caught naked, and if you can tell from scent, then you know I wasn't one of those men. The female alien stops and studies him, wanting to find him guilty, searching his pores for guilt. A male would have had at me already. Are you just holding out for a male to get here? If a male is on the way, you need to shut up so that I may deliberate faster. She turns her back to him and sits on her haunches. We see over her shoulder the butcher in his brutal coiled posture. After a moment's thought, she keeps her back turned and says, Go then. From behind him, we look across the water, past his weapons, to the alien already disappearing into the rocks and branches and shadows. The butcher moves on. You were right about the males, she calls out to him. But don't think you can trust a female either. And cover your scent. You smell like roast meat. At the next little water cove, he stops to wash. He scrubs himself with a handful of foliage. The sands roll in. The wind whips through the canyon. He hears voices, taunting, laughter, a scream and a sigh for every grain of sand blast across his skin. When the sands begin to settle, he sees perched upon a rock above the water the princess with her hair chopped off. I knew nothing of my husband's plans beforehand. Why would I abide idly while he carried out such a plot? I knew he did not think highly of the alien intellect. I knew he lusted for the alien females. With their exaggerated femininity, a human cannot compete. They move like the animals we only try to imitate. The human body has become too refined to be so primally sexual. But I did not know he would cross sacred boundaries for his perversion. I did not know he would toy with their religion, or trick them into some sort of obedience or sexual willingness. The man wades through the water to her. He begins washing her feet. I am soiled from under my skin. Will you scrub there? The beasts can sniff us out. Then make sure to get between my toes. He throws the sponge of leaves at her. Scrub for yourself if you have the energy to moan, he says as he wades back across the water. I do not blame you for loathing me. It's your self-loathing I despise. You pity yourself to the point of contempt, yet you insist yourself at the center of the universe, so as time and space collapse by the force of your bitterness, I get sucked into the void along with you. So take that knife and off with you if your empathy is so great. The princess sniffles and sits up straight, drags her knife along the rock. You are as brutal as they say, butcher. He says nothing, drying off and wringing out his clothes. And what would you do if you'd been taken by 10 or 12 of those animals? held down and spread apart and thumped upon, mishandled like a ball at the center of some sport for apes. The butcher checks his weapons. Unsatisfied, he begins the rhythmic scraping process of sharpening. The princess examines her blade, taking it in two hands, stroking carefully along the sharpened edge, watching the sunlight glint off its surface. A single tiny drop of blood begins to show on her fingertip, then races red down the length of the blade. The butcher is wiping his blades clean, hears the sound of steel zing through the air. He turns to see the knife flying towards him. We see from the blade's perspective, rushing towards the target, dark at the peripherals, sharp and expanding rapidly at the focus. Legs in the water, he can't sidestep out of the way fast enough, so he reaches to swipe it sideways mid-flight, catches it before it can pierce him, but slices up his palm. The princess scurries away through the bushes and around the rocks. From a low, wide angle, we see Boots step across the sand, the bandaged hand, the oxygen tank. Up ahead, two men drag themselves through the sand. One man has no legs at all. The other has all his limbs but can't stand or use his left arm. The legless man paddles into the shade of a steep rock face, gasping for breath, gathering back up his organs. The butcher approaches them. "We didn't know what the prince had done," the one man says, as he drags himself to the base of the rock formation and rests leaning against it. "We were only told there was going to be a celebration. And girls. The way they came on to us, I only figured they were part of the party." "All I knew, the girls were willing," the other man says. "I didn't know they'd been manipulated. It was a horror, butcher. The prince already had what he wanted, but he insisted on the king's wife. The son of a whore doomed us all," coughing and laughing in the same breath. "Even you won't last out here for a ship to come."
"We're not dead yet, brother. Hold it together a while longer and they'll build you some new legs. I'll have the High Wizard send a medic."
"They're all gone. The High Wizard is gone."
"When? He signaled me after I landed."
"He died in the explosion." As the man coughs and spits and convulses, we move back from the three men. Their voices become distant. They echo to us, and from a predator's hidden view, we sense the approaching aliens. The men turn to see them now, sneaking out from behind the rocks, appearing from out their camouflage. "Kill us, butcher," the man pleads, gripping at him with desperate pleading want. "I won't know what it's like to be torn in four while I'm still alive." The butcher removes his clutching hand and puts a knife in it.
"I won't kill my only allies,"
tossing a knife to land in the sand beside the other man, too. "What do you expect us to do? I wouldn't survive with just a knife even if I had my legs."
"If you have to die, then make sure they have to suffer that blade to kill you."
Strapping on his oxygen mask and circling away towards the enemy. "Butcher!" the man screams, grabbing the knife in both hands, trembling. The battle begins. The aliens go for the weakest first. One pounces on the legless man, smacks away the knife and shreds his throat, still screaming through the gurgling tatters. The other man picks up his knife, more determined to make a stand. The second creature pounces. He delivers the blade towards its neck, but too low, into the shoulder. The creature yelps in pain, but still delivers a quick fatal blow to the man's neck. The butcher, in an instant, and while all this is happening, scoops up the batted knife and flings it into the eye of the first attacker, then himself pounces on the creature tearing at his second ally's throat, debilitates it with a shot to the kidney, then grabs the creature in a headlock under the chin and slices its throat. The one-eyed alien charges in rage. The butcher makes a quick feint. The alien lunges at him and snaps its jaws, but too short. His eye is fooled by the distance, and his jaws crash into the ground instead of flesh. The butcher brings his knife down on the back of the creature's neck. The dead man behind stares gaping into the open sky, seeps and gushes blood, body still gently heaving. The butcher eyes across to the third creature as he unstucks his blade. Walking away from the battle, victorious, splashed in blood, the butcher signals the High Wizard. The wizard appears in hologram floating beside him. "You're still walking," the wizard tells him. "Day cycles are 26.5 Earth hours. You have 2 more hours of sunlight to reach those caves to the south. If you're lucky, the princess will be there to greet you."
"Where are you?"
"Don't worry about me. You need to find shelter before nightfall. Temperatures drop to below freezing at night, and there's a species of owl with a wingspan 3 times your height. And guess how big the mice are? The size of your head, which is what that owl is going to see when he comes swooping down."
"If the High Wizard died in the explosion, who am I talking to?"
The hologram says nothing, crosses its arms, and turns to face the direction the butcher is walking. It frowns and tilts its holographic head. "I don't think the princess knows."
"I'm not heading to that cave."
"I'm a self-reliant digital intelligence based on a highly detailed and highly accurate brain model of myself, or should I say of the High Wizard, which we program to activate fully independent should something happen to the biological form of the wizard."
"Are you sure the High Wizard is gone?"
It looked grim.
"And your plan now is to survive through one of us surviving?"
"You say that like an accusation, but I'm certainly not your enemy. All the better for you that my survival be dependent on yours. Now you can be certain I'm compelled to help you with all my capacity, and with no tricks up my sleeve. And despite what I said earlier about the princess, you may have noticed her progressing along the same path as you. So don't think I'm some heartless bit of programming. I know she's vulnerable out there, but she's been through such a shock she doesn't know how to structure herself in reality anymore. She's trying to fling herself off the face of reality. She is a princess after all. She hasn't even been in a kitchen to understand the cruelty that goes into her meals. The only thing keeping her straight is when she's alone and the fear kicks in."
"Is this how strictly you counsel princes and kings?"
"By the time any of us knew what the prince was up to, it was already in motion. Do you understand how difficult it would have been to defuse? Once the ceremony started, there was nothing else to do but hope to get through it without incident and leave as soon as possible, return to our solar system."
"You never know what'll draw out the evil in a man's heart. Out here on the edge, a man can lose himself, get high on his own ego, his superiority over the natural world. There's a sense of creation in discovery. You start thinking it all belongs to you, is because of you."
"You're wiser than your face, Butcher. But the prince was no fool either. He executed a devilish plan, and he was poised to get away with it too. But you should know he was seduced." The butcher turns his attention. "One of the king's wives seduced him away from the whores." The butcher's legs and waist come into view, walking towards a cavernous rock formation. The sunlight is fading. He comes to a small cave hidden from the sands. He draws his largest, flattest knife and edges around the corner, eyes adjusting to the dark. Something zings through the air. He deflects it with his blade, a tiny pebble. And there, sitting in a dark corner, the princess tosses another pebble towards him in a harmless arc. The butcher walks around inspecting the area.
"We should be able to build a small fire and still keep out of view."
The princess says nothing and the butcher gets to work. Once he has a fire going, the princess and her pride stay on the opposite side of the cave, though clearly trying to catch some warmth from the fire. A shadow passes by outside. The princess straightens up. The butcher sniffs the air.
"It's a female."
He stands and starts towards the entrance. "You're not going to leave me for one of those things too?"
"There could be others,"
readying his blades.
"If a fight breaks out, you're going to have to run."
He heads outside, moving low and silent around the rocks. We see him small and gray against the dark, warm colors of the sky, shadows and the foreign shape of alien foliage looming all around. "You found your princess." The man spins around to face the voice. A large darkness atop the rocks stands and moves into the light.
"Are there others nearby?"
The female just lies down and points out at the distance, the smoke and fire at the horizon. "They're all too busy with the crash. They think they might find something."
"You're one of the king's wives." You don't smell like a feral or a whore.
The alien gives him a sharp, inquisitive look.
Is one of the wives responsible for seducing the prince?
She rises up on her haunches. How am I supposed to keep track of someone else's intentions in all that chaos?
Is that how it happened?
She lies back down and licks her paw. Does it really need to be called a seduction? 2 more partners danced away into the night. The entire celebration was an orgy, organized by your prince. The man studies her with hard, penetrating eyes. She pays no attention and continues her grooming. When he finally turns away, she stops licking and lifts her gaze just slightly to watch him. He climbs the rocks to a higher position, trying to spot movement in the distance. A weight hangs silent in the air. The wind rustles the leaves. The fire of the crash rages, a blazing drone of flame and crumbling debris. None of it's true, is it? Any of it. The man just watches the night. Firelight in the distance flashing red and orange across his face, flickering in the blacks of his eyes. I know it's not true, but you knew details about our history.
We are not the old race returning to your planet. The alien waps her tail in the darkness. We simply have the technology to research and sift through information in an instant. We discovered your religious texts. We discovered the ruins of the old race.
All without getting out of your spaceship. The man says nothing. And what did you learn about the old race? With all your technology? The butcher shrugs.
If they live on somewhere, we haven't crossed paths.
The female turns her back to him and watches the fire, her dark silhouette against the blaze. And what about your gods? Are they dead too?
I don't know. The further you travel in the universe, the bigger it seems.
The butcher receives a ping from the High Wizard. The female excuses herself. The butcher opens a hologram of the wizard. I see her at the cave. The wizard starts in without introductions. I assume the princess is still there? She hasn't run off.
She's here.
Good. Now I've compiled a list of edible wildlife in the area and organized it based on nutrition and digestible agreeability. I've added markers on your map of plant locations and animal activity.
There's a female nearby.
A female? A female alien? Are they living in the caves out here? I figured this was far enough away from the city.
No. I met her on the path. She must have followed us here.
Well, for God's sake, drive her off. You think there's any difference between her and a male? The female isn't so aggressive or direct, but she has something in mind if she's following you, and whatever it is, it's in her best interests, which you have no reason to believe coincide in the slightest with your own. The female is always trying to puppeteer the male in order to gain advantage. She wields them like a beast on a chain, and the beast is always expendable in relation to its owner. That's the social structure we're dealing with here, and we've seen how volatile it can be.
I understand.
This isn't good, though. Regardless of her motivations, you can see where this is headed. If she tracked you down, it's only a matter of time before the others do too. We're not going to be able to remain hidden and alive out here 3 months waiting for a rescue. We're going to have to come up with a diplomatic solution, and it needs to be one we can unsheath and immediately cut through whatever holy retributional rage we're confronted with. So that means our diplomacy may have to include the threat of destruction. I haven't come up with a better argument that contains the necessary authority, but you'll agree that I should be included in the decision-making, to say the least.
I trust the wizard's judgment.
And I'm sorry, but the princess is your responsibility now. Of course, I'll still be in her ear as much as she'll listen, but her proclivity for chaos has a much greater likelihood to manifest now that there's someone else to partake in the drama. From inside the cave, looking across the fire, we see the butcher come into frame. He stops when he sees across the room. The fire crackles. Light pops and snaps angular shadows across the rocks. He treads heavily across the cave to where the female alien is gnawing meat off the arm of the princess. Dark blood washes down to her decapitated head. where it tumbled off the rock after her neck was chewed through.
"What have you done?"
I was going to kill her. Then she told me I should do it. She closed her eyes and said she wouldn't even scream. The butcher draws his knives. You're going to need me when the males sniff you out. The butcher begins to circle. Even if your warships can destroy our entire planet in 3 minutes, it's still going to be 3 months until they arrive. Isn't that right? The butcher hurls a knife, but her slender frame and animal reflexes allow her to dodge easily, effortlessly. The only way to save yourself is to see through with your lie. The butcher stands over the female brandishing his knives when he senses something behind him. Over his shoulder, we see 2 males stalk into the entrance of the cave. The butcher hardens his look and turns to face them. Another one stalks in, then 2 more. Stand back, the female says, standing up tall on her hind legs. This is the last living man, and the only chance at fulfilling the miracle.
"There is no fucking miracle, you stupid whore. The humans are blasphemers. The humans killed the king."
Your former king got intoxicated on human wine and tore the ship apart.
"Blasphemy!"
The nearest male meets eyes with the butcher. They both growl and bare their teeth at one another. The female puts her paw on the butcher's shoulder as she steps down, but remains standing upright. The males lower their heads and growl as she approaches.
"We searched the wreckage and didn't find anyone else alive. By what trickery did you survive?"
I was by the king's side when the fighting started, so you could say I was the first to run away. This man directed me to the emergency re-entry gear, which allowed me to survive the fall. The butcher glares at her. He and I are the only survivors. If the miracle is to take place, it shall be our child, the survivor of the falling fire. The males all straighten and look at each other. The survivor of the falling fire, a most dramatic and memorable passage in their book of faith, where the parents of the miracle child venture away from the planet to conceive, and upon their return experience a disastrous engine failure, destroying the ship, leaving the mother, father, and child as the sole survivors of a second fiery rain. The story's resemblance to actual events shocks their minds into a humming state of faith, eager hope in the arms of destiny and the momentum of prophecy. You have an opportunity to redeem this disaster, to be the saviors after the failure of your king, to have your name spoken alongside the greatest warriors and wisest men. She paces in front of them, all standing in a row. Guardians of the child, sentries of the future. The males have neither the wit nor words to express their humble sense of wonder and duty. Did you not hear me?
"Yes," one of the males perks up.
Something clicks inside them. A different spirit enters their chests. Then stand up straight and say so. They all jump up straight on their hind legs and echo each other.
"Yes, my lady."
The butcher doesn't relax or release his knives. You will bring us food and bedding. We shouldn't return to the city yet. It's not safe. So tell no one of what you are doing or where. 2 will remain here on guard. 3 will go. Arm yourselves for your return. There will be those who wish the child and the father dead. You will ensure our safety. Do you understand? If any questions his loyalty, speak now, or one who is loyal will find you out himself." In the deep darkness of space, an alien species has adapted to living aboard a spaceship. Long ago, they left their planet after a natural disaster. It was so long ago, so many millennia now, that the idea of even setting foot on a planet seems like myth. The old stories say that they left the mother planet during a fiery rain of meteors. A great fleet departed with the hope of finding another planet to inhabit, but only one ship survived the bombardment of the skies. This was not an advanced spacefaring race. They had barely learned to reach their own moon, so the escape ship was not built with the potential to reach any great distance or travel at any great speed. It ran out of fuel before they even reached the next planet in their own star system. Tens of thousands of years later, their species still exists solely on that one ship, And while they have greatly improved and expanded their home, without adequate resources, they haven't created much in the way of a more powerful propulsion system. All their energy goes to keeping the ship operational as a living space, as a city, keeping the lights on, keeping the oxygen levels. So they drift along at a slow pace and the years go by. But no matter how far removed, they're always curious about their former home. According to their history, enough time has passed since the event and the emigration that life could be flourishing again, theoretically even intelligent life. The aliens tell stories and sing songs and play games about a return to a lush green planet of possibilities, the heaven after the reckoning, always dreaming of the day they'll find their way back home. One day they receive an anomalous signal. It is no false alarm, an active signal, a signal from an alien race. They are extremely intelligent. They decipher their language quickly. They are called humans. They are on a mission to rescue their prince from a hostile planet. Amazing. Yesterday they knew of no other intelligent species in the universe. Today they learn of two. Upon first meeting, the humans seem wary and unimpressed. The aliens don't want to appear weak or inhospitable, especially when the human technology could save their people. They are adrift and vulnerable. They need security. They have proven resilient and resourceful enough so far, but the old stories are proof that one cannot survive forever on the mercy of the universe. But of course they don't want to seem desperate. They want to seem competent and strong, allies one would want in the galaxy. So they volunteer a group of freedom fighters to go with the humans and help rescue their prince. If the planet is indeed home to evildoers who would dare sabotage a peace mission, then it is a noble and righteous cause, and should prove a great diplomatic gesture, a strong foundation on which to build a lasting and prosperous friendship. You have been listening to Man in the Mirage by Edward Cabras.